When you're in a relationship, everyone seems to have advice for you. What makes a relationship work and how you can stay together for the long term. And while everyone means very well, how do we know that this advice that we're receiving is accurate and is actually going to help our relationships? In this video, I'm going to be covering some of the common myths that surround relationships and what makes a relationship work. Some that are even perpetuated by therapists. If you're interested in helping your relationship last in the long term, you're not going to want to miss this video. By the end of the video, you'll have a better sense of what relationship advice you should be taking and what you can avoid. I'm Meredith McKenzie, owner and couples therapist at Parallel Wellness. I'm also trained in level 1 of the Gottman Method, and I'm trained to provide the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work workshop. On this channel, we explore topics that bring clients to our therapy practice every day. You'll find tips and strategies that you can make your own to enhance your everyday life and manage your mental wellness. So subscribe to the channel and hit the bell in the corner so you're notified when we post new videos. We publish every Wednesday. For this video, I'll be drawing on the work of Dr. John Gottman in his work, The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, which is a New York Times bestseller. This is my very own copy and it's a very well-loved book on my bookshelf. Some people consider it the Bible for couples in any relationship. I've added a link down below in the description if you're interested in getting a copy of this book to invest in your own relationship. Over the years, research has really focused on improving couples therapy techniques, as well as preventing problems within relationships to better the relationships of couples. Unfortunately, many couples therapists are still using techniques within their practice that don't get right at the root of what promotes a lasting relationship. And this is often based on myths and misconceptions of what makes a relationship really work. These are things that we've all heard before and have come to believe to be true. Ask anyone. Everyone has their beliefs and opinions of what the secret is to a lasting relationship. And we're all looking for that ingredient. What is it that's going to keep us together? And we can see this. It's portrayed in television when we see a psychologist talking to a couple, or maybe you even hear it from your wise hairstylist when you go to get your hair done. Well, Dr. John Gottman and his team at the Love Lab in Seattle have actually found a solution to this. Based on their research with hundreds of couples, they have found what works in a relationship and helps the couple last in the long term, and what factors actually lead to the relationship ending. He's even been able to get it down to a science where he can predict whether or not a couple will stay together in the long term. The first myth, and probably one that you've heard the most, is that communication is the key to a lasting relationship. We all want to believe, and it's actually touted by many therapists, that if we can just communicate, if we can just find a way to understand one another, that all of the problems and all of the arguments are just going to dissolve and melt away. Many of us have heard of active listening and, taking a moment to listen to your partner and what they're saying and hear it from their point of view, as well as using I statements rather than the blaming you. It's speaking from a personal perspective of what I experience. And this makes sense, right? Because that's the way we want to teach our children to speak to one another. That's the way you recognize that your therapist speaks to you and it feels really great and you feel really validated and listened to when you're in a therapy session. So why wouldn't we want to communicate better with our partners? And the problem that Dr. Gottman points out is that it's assumed that this is all that couples need, wherein it's not. It's just one part of the solution. For most of us, when we argue with our partner, we tend to be very focused on our perspective and have a really difficult time with seeing what's going on for the other person. We get caught up in our emotions and we really try to fight for our point of view so that it's heard and understood by our partner. For couples who have challenges with communication, a lot of people end up feeling as though their relationship is deemed a failure because they're not able to communicate in an effective, active listening, I statement kind of way. And that's simply not true. When Dr. John Gottman did his research on couples therapy that really focused on this communication-based way of providing support to couples, he found that actually only 35 to 50% of couples saw any improvement in their relationship, which if I'm paying for couples therapy and I'm maybe really holding on strong to my relationship hoping that this will work, that doesn't sound very hopeful that only 35 to 50% of couples saw improvement. Also, when he checked in with these couples a year later, only 18 to 25% of the couples actually saw any kind of retained benefits of this type of therapy, which isn't very promising. We also have to think that when a lot of couples come to couples therapy, they're already going through so much. And it's a lot to ask of couples who are struggling to be able to take on this very heavy role of being an active listener to their partner when emotions are running so high. So it's not at all to say that communication as a technique in general is not good or that it shouldn't be pursued. However, it's just a part of the puzzle that helps couples with making their relationship work. The next common myth is that the happiest couples are conflict-free. Let me break it to you. many couples argue and have conflict and maybe even have screaming matches, and it doesn't lead them to parting ways. And I hope by this point in the video you're able to take a sigh of relief. Maybe you've been watching this thinking, oh my goodness, does this mean my relationship is doomed? And let me reassure you, arguing is normal and not necessarily a sign of the end of a relationship. Research even shows that the intensity and frequency of arguing within a relationship is not correlated with relationship satisfaction. There are plenty of couples who argue within their relationship and can continue to be happy and satisfied within their relationship. Because arguments do not erase all of the moments of love, affection, laughter, and connection and trust within a relationship. Another common myth that you may be familiar with is that difficult individual personalities or people that are difficult to deal with ruin relationships. Researcher Tom Bradbury actually says that all of us come into relationships with what he calls enduring vulnerabilities, or things about ourselves that aren't shining examples of what we would like to be, but we all come with them. And these personality traits do not necessarily mean disaster for a relationship, as long as the person is self-aware of what it is that they're dealing with, and the other partner is also working not to activate these challenges. In Dr. Gottman's book, he actually provides an example of a couple where one of the individuals actually had some real challenges with authority in relationships. This person tends to be really sensitive to feeling bossed around or kind of put in a lesser than position. However, within this person's relationship, their partner actually approaches them with equality and doesn't see them as somebody who's less than. This couple actually reports lots of satisfaction and happiness within their relationship. Another popular myth believed to be one of the secrets to having a long-lasting, happy relationship is that common interests are what are going to bind you together. And while this may be true to a certain extent, because if you enjoy cooking, you enjoy hiking, any other types of activities, and your partner also does, isn't it nice if you can do those things together? That's kind of an incomplete belief. What really matters is how you interact with your partner while you're doing these activities. Yes, sharing interests and activities can be a really great way for you to bond and share fondness for your partner. But if you spend a lot of your time while you're engaging in these activities also in conflict, well, then you're not really enjoying the situation as you could be. For example, do you criticize each other's technique? Do you find yourselves arguing about how to pursue a specific interest? Or maybe you're on that hiking trail and you feel like you're always getting left behind and your partner's not walking with you. So for this one, really consider, are your interests something that bring you together, or do you find that it actually pulls you further apart? Another common myth, and one that's even promoted sometimes by therapists, is that relationships should be give and take. Some researchers believe that the key to a lasting relationship is couples that are able to reciprocate positive actions with one another. So it's kind of like, if I unload the dishwasher, then you unload the dishwasher for me. However, Dr. Gottman actually points out that this kind of transactional give and take type of relationship is actually a sign of what could be so much more beneath the surface. Couples therapists will sometimes contract clients to engage in reciprocity within their relationship, and this is really aimed at repairing that conflict and preventing conflict about, well, I took out the garbage last and I did the dishes on Tuesday, you haven't cooked dinner in over a week, those type of arguments. In your relationship, if you're finding that you need to tally each of your kind of duties and what you have done and what your partner has not done and making that type of comparison, Dr. Gottman says that this is actually a sign of something much more that's happening beneath the surface, and it's not necessarily about the tasks and who's doing them when, but there's something greater that we need to be talking about. It's actually this act of keeping the score that signifies the tension within the relationship. The funny thing about relationship advice is that sometimes it conflicts with some of the other advice that we hear. So while on one hand, one of the earlier myths we talked about is that happy couples don't have conflict, another myth that gets talked about is that avoiding conflict in relationships can actually lead to the relationship's demise. But again, this is simply not true. Conflict can look all different ways in a relationship. Some people have those screaming matches like I mentioned. Other couples do really well with ending an argument quickly and going off into their own corners and engaging in something positive, and maybe never rehashing or coming to a solution about the thing that they were originally arguing about. The research shows that no matter what degree of conflict couples engage in a relationship, it actually has no bearing on whether or not they'll be happy, satisfied, and whether or not they'll stay together in the long term. And this is one that I really like to share with my clients, because a lot of people will come into couples therapy and be quite ashamed and worried that they're going to share something about their relationship and be judged for it. But really, there is no better way of having conflict. One type is not better than the other, as long as it works for the couple. And the last myth that I'm going to talk about, which is actually quite a popular one, is that affairs are often the main cause of breakups in relationships. We've all heard of that couple before. Maybe everything seemed great on the outside, and then we find out that so-and-so had an affair, and then it all came crumbling down. In actuality, it's more likely to go the other way around. When problems go unattended in a relationship and the couple starts to feel as though they're living parallel lives, or that they're not coming together to solve those problems and to really be a couple and a unit, and they start seeking things outside of their relationship for validation, comfort, affirmation, all of those things that they would have otherwise be receiving within their relationship, they become more susceptible to seeking out those comforts from other people. And for individuals who end up seeking out affairs outside of their relationship, it's often reported that they're trying to seek out something that they perceive to not be working within their current relationship. In a study called the Divorce Mediation Project, the researchers actually found that 80% of divorced people actually reported that their marriage ended because they gradually grew apart, did not have the closeness that they once had, and did not feel loved and appreciated. Well, only 20 to 27% reported that their relationship ended due to an extramarital affair and that was partially to blame. Now, there are two more myths that Dr. Gottman makes a point of in his book, The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work, which I'm going to let you read on your own if you're interested. Again, I've provided the link in the description down below if you'd like to get yourself a copy of the book. Personally, I feel like these two myths are a little more outdated, focused on more traditional gender norms as well as stereotypes of men and women, and does not really speak to modern relationships in the same way that I would like to speak in this type of video. But I highly recommend this book if you're interested in learning more about what makes a good relationship tick and identifying for yourself the areas that you can work on in your relationship. So which of these relationship myths have you heard and maybe even believed before you watch this video? Leave a comment down below. I'm really interested in hearing more about where we get these ideas about what is the key to a lasting relationship. As you can see, there are many myths out there that have been passed down and maybe even perpetuated by other couples therapists. For that reason, if you're interested in seeking out couples therapy for you and your partner, I'd highly recommend you find somebody who's trained in the Gottman method so that they have access and that they really practice from knowing all of this research and the many, many strategies that Dr. John Gottman has come up with based on scientific evidence of what helps couples stay together in the long term. Are you ready to take a leap and start investing in your relationship using the research-proven strategies of Dr. John Gottman for making a relationship work? My practice at Parallel Wellness is actually offering a 2-day Gottman certified couples workshop, all based on the 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work by Dr. John Gottman. You'll learn all the strategies that couples who actually stay together use so you can become one of the happy relationship masters. If you're in the Vancouver area, click on the link in the description box down below and secure your seat. You won't regret investing in your relationship. We've already seen how faulty our common beliefs about relationships are. Now is the time to learn what really works. This is the beginning of our couple series, so come back next week where I'll be sharing about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and what that means for how you have conflict within your relationship. Because you may now be asking yourself, what actually does work to maintain a happy and healthy relationship? This month on this channel, I'll be dedicating time to couples and relationships. So give this video a like, a comment in the comment section down below about what you would like to know about how to have a satisfying relationship, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video in this series. And follow me on social media at Parallel Wellness on Instagram so we can keep the conversation going. I'll see you in the next video.